Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world. Time!
Three on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game!
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Float game for the win! Ale is gone. Goodbye. Touchdown, Indy. Woo! IU. America. They got a football team now.
Pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, here's Jim Coyle.
Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome aboard. Indiana Sports Beat Radio here with you. No matter where or how you're listening, whether it's on one of our great radio station affiliates like 97.7 ESPN, The Ref, always the right call in Evansville, or in the region on the voice of the region, 1230 AM, 104.7 FM WJOB, or on Fort Wayne's only sports station, 1380 The Fan. Keep it locked on those stations as you travel throughout the day. If you're on social media, please do us the favor of subscribing and hit that like button for us. We sincerely appreciate it. Hope you're having a great day and had a great week, as we are now ready for the weekend and college football. A little early if you're an Indiana fan, as the Hoosiers kick off tonight at 6:30 in one of 5 scheduled games around the country on this high school Friday night, unfortunately. Syracuse hosting Colgate. Colorado going to Houston in what could be a very interesting matchup. We'll see. That's 7:30 on ESPN. Kansas State at Arizona. That's a later game on Fox tonight at 9. And New Mexico at Big Ten opponent UCLA, who is looking to not go 0-3 on the season. And to start the season, not a good start so far for the boys out there in LA. Don't forget, UCLA is in Los Angeles, as Coach Deshaun Foster reminded us at the Big Ten a year ago. Tino Sunseri also at the OC there. He's probably going to wish that was going to be a movie he wished he didn't make. But good to get that OC cred on your credentials, even if he has to move along. But welcome aboard. Plenty to get to today. Looking forward to Todd Liry joining us, Zach Austerman, Alec Lazley. Be some basketball to talk about. Indiana got a big recruit visit coming in this weekend as well. So plenty to talk about. The Alabama Crimson Tide taking on Wisconsin this weekend, and their quarterback, Billy Edwards Jr., who transferred from Maryland, got hurt in the very first game, unlikely to play against Alabama on Saturday, so they'll still go with their backup, which I think that is going to be, I would take the spread if I were a betting man. So the new portal for football, I think that is a good thing. SEC coaches have expressed support on Wednesday for the proposed move of college football's transfer portal window from December to January, arguing it's the best option, even if it conflicts with the college football playoff schedule. I'm sorry, there's no crying on the yacht, LSU coach Brian Kelly said Wednesday during the weekly SEC conference. I mean, we've got to get this thing set and its best position at this time to allow us to set our rosters moving forward. I agree. Ohio State coach Ryan Day said this past Tuesday that he was not a fan of the proposal to open the transfer window on January 2nd for a 10-day period immediately following the CFP quarterfinals. Day is concerned about the difficulty of assembling a roster for next season while still competing in the playoff. He said he believes a majority of the Big Ten coaches and Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti agree with him. Kelly said his fellow SEC coaches are unanimous for their support of shifting to a January portal period. Talked to many that believe across the country that this progress that we need to make, Kelly said. So it'll be interesting to see how that finally plays out. Glad to have you along. Hope you enjoyed the week. Man, the weather just continues to be fantastic, and it is expected to be going forward for whether you're going to make it out to a high school game tonight. Bloomington North and South are going at it. And in an unfortunate situation where Indiana has a home game as well, there's going to be split allegiances there and many other places, I'm sure. So not without question. Man, some bad news as far as a gambling issue in which, how many? 13 men's college basketball players from 6 different schools have been nailed for gambling. And it's just not, I don't understand why these guys continue to push and try to get away with something that they're not going to get away with. I mean, how dumb are you? Everybody gets caught. They've got just ways to track all of this stuff. I mean, these betting schemes included betting against their own team, game manipulation, and sharing information with third parties for gambling purposes, the NCAA has announced. Former players formerly associated with Eastern Michigan, Temple, Arizona State, New Orleans, North Carolina A&T, and Mississippi Valley State are under investigation for gambling violations, according to the NCAA, which they declined to name the athletes until the infraction process has concluded. None of the players are currently enrolled at the schools where the infractions occurred, according to the NCAA. The violations include athletes betting on and against their own teams, sharing information with third parties, like I said, for betting purposes, knowingly manipulating scoring or game outcomes, and or refusing to participate in the enforcement staff's investigation. The NCAA said additional sports betting cases are at varying stages. They will catch you. Unless there's somebody out there getting away with it, they will catch you, man. It's amazing to me how good that they are, but they will catch you. So why an athlete tries to do this, especially when they're already being paid, it's just that's ridiculous. You're really you compromising your own integrity, but you're compromising the integrity of whatever sport you're participating in. And it's not good. But unfortunately, at least a lot of this seems to be happening at the lower level. A lot of lower level schools. Now, did mention Temple, and in basketball, they're not exactly a lower level school, or they kind of dropped to the mid level as of right now. But what was it, Arizona that I mentioned, or Arizona State? Arizona State. Boy, they've always got something going on out there, don't they? I guess they think because they're out in the desert, they can get away with it. Not so fast, my friend. Not so fast. Rudy thinks that anything you can bet on is rigged. Yeah, I think that's a little ridiculous. That's how the hell are you going to rig every college football game, every college basketball game, every NBA game? I don't believe that everything is rigged, but hey, that's what conspiracies theories are for, right? But yeah, it's just, we always hear about it. You're going to get caught. They have so many things in place to catch, to watch, and I'm shocked that they do as good a job as they do catching these people. But it's pointless, man. Don't do it. You're hurting yourself. You're hurting your teammates. You're hurting your team. You're hurting your program. You're hurting your school. You're hurting. You're just doing nothing but hurting and hurting and hurting other people. So happy birthday to Shenanigans. He gets to enjoy a football game on his birthday. So good for him. We got plenty to come along. The Shot Father will be joining us. Indiana's got some big visits coming up this weekend, as I mentioned, but a huge weekend in college football. We've got some Big Ten games that will be taking place this weekend. Oregon, Northwestern. Let's see, there's somebody else. Oh, excuse me. One more back there. Pardon me. We've got to take our first break. When we come back, the Shot Father will be with us. Hang on. Back with plenty more right after these messages.
Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemooreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today.
Huddle up, football fans. Tailgate season is here and nobody gets you ready for game day like Academy Sports and Outdoors. Swing by your local Academy store or shop online at academy.com to find everything you need from grills to jerseys and more. Be a watch party legend with gear from top brands like Nike and Under Armour, all at unbeatable prices every day. With 8 Academy stores across Indiana, including our Bloomington location, fun can't lose and neither can you. Gear up today at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Zach Browning here to tell you about an offer you simply can't pass up. If you're looking for the best coverage of Indiana football and basketball, which includes recruiting, weekly chats, podcasts, as well as access to the best national team out there, then look no further than thehoosier.com. The best part, it's just $1 for the first week. Oh, and did I mention that you get a full year of access to The Athletic when you sign up? You can't beat the coverage and you can't beat the deal. So head over to thehoosier.com today and sign up for just $1. It'll be the best decision you ever made.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday, heading into the weekend. Also, it's game day. Todd Liry with us, the Shot Father from myjumpshot.com. How is it going, sir?
Great. How about yourself?
Cannot complain. If I was any better, that'd be Todd Liry.
Ooh, don't want to be that.
It's a beautiful day out, man. Looks like a beautiful golf weekend.
Yeah, we're getting the weather we thought we were going to get 2 weeks ago now, which I'm not complaining, so I'll take it.
It is a good one. A lot going on this weekend. Of course, you've got Indiana has a football game tonight. Tons of Big Ten games. There are a few Big Ten games this weekend, which normally they'll start mostly next week, getting into conference play after the non-con games. But Indiana has a big visit on the basketball side coming in with a 5-star small forward in Anthony Thompson. And they've been working hard to get him. So they'll probably wish they had him come in next week for that Illinois game, which will be an electric environment, a night game at 7:30. I don't know how the attendance is going to be on this game, to be honest with you. Not only is it a Friday night game at 6, people are scrambling still to get home from work, and then you've got the high school games, including Bloomington North and South, playing each other here in Bloomington. And so it's going to be a hodgepodge, I think.
Yeah, it's I wouldn't call it ideal. I'm not sure that when they scheduled that, there was enough research done into the Bloomington North and South. I think that's the biggest. I mean, whenever you play on Friday, there's going to be the people who say Friday is for high school football, and I don't disagree with that. when you're not someone who has a kid in high school and goes to those games, I don't mind having games on TV to watch. So that's all kind of catch-22 there. But, I'm right now at Memorial Stadium. I'm at Cook Hall. Like I told you, sometimes I just show up and try to see who's working out early, and all the coaches are already here. I can tell you that they've been here for a while.
And that's impressive, because that has not always been the case recently. And so to have
being
guys
very kind in the way you're saying that.
yes. But we know the football coaches, man, they get out there early and they're there late. And in the off season, what's going on with the basketball? Because it's all so quiet. And
what Coaches Row parking looks like, and there they are.
Yeah,
all coaches right there. So and they've been here for a while.
And you've talked in the past about gym rats, players. Yep. Now, a lot of the guys probably have school right now, but they can't, be in the gym or whatever. I don't know how their schedules are set up, but and that's another thing that hadn't been the case recently for some reason, because usually you think there's just always going to be those guys on the team. I think that they probably have some of those guys now, if not a lot of those guys,
right?
Because of knowing how that they are, and looking forward to that as they quietly move forward in this season. Because since Puerto Rico, there's not a lot that goes on media wise. We don't get to talk to them much. They're doing what they're doing. They're working on improving from where we saw them in Puerto Rico, which was a good test and a good sign. So we know that they had a good starting point already, and now to just work on getting better and better, like we've seen the football team they have to improve quickly from week 1 to week 2, and from week 2 to week 3, because in week 4, here it comes, baby. Illinois comes to town. So you've got to be ready. Basketball is still working on it. They've got a tough ass schedule this year. They got I saw yesterday someone's power rankings you've got Purdue and Michigan, who kind of sit at the top, but you've also got Louisville and Kentucky, and there was another Big Ten team in the top 10, and I'm like, damn, 5 of those are on Indiana's schedule. So they're scheduled again with the basketball. There's going to be no complaints about the non-conference schedule this year. You've got Marquette that they play in Chicago, Louisville, and Kentucky, and I think I might be missing one, but those are the biggies. But they've got to be ready when that thing comes around, and you've got a brand new team, but they seem to be pretty cohesive in Puerto Rico, so that's a good sign going forward, is what I'm sure they're just working on, making that better and better each and every day.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the things that people have asked me about over the years were questions about what it was like in, game days are fun, exciting, nervous, all of that. But like, what happens in the off time? And this is kind of the off time. And I'm just guessing. I don't know this for sure, even though I just showed you all the coaches' cars are here. This is probably a day the kids, the players have off. Especially with the early football game and all that. They've got the recruits in town. They'll probably come in and do some type of individual workout or some little thing like that, depending on your academic schedule. But I mean, today's kind of a fun day. Today would be even back in my time, we would have entertained, we would have gone to dinner at Zagreb's and had a great meal, because we have recruits in town. That's why we loved having recruits in town, because you got to go instead of Steak and Shake, we got to eat Zagreb's. But I mean, this time of year, I think you made a great point. Like, Indiana starts out with a little bit, I don't know if advantage is the right word, but they're ahead of the game in their cohesiveness. And I think it's a lot of it because of that Puerto Rico trip. And they get to build on that now. Like, you think now about, how much better they're going to be basketball wise between what we saw then and then when the season starts. But like, there's so many other things these guys have to get acclimated to. Like you talked about many times, like even Lsley is a freshman. He's from Indiana, but he's a freshman. He's not been on campus and done this before. All the other guys are new to town. So everybody's getting acclimated to Bloomington, their living environment, how people react to them, like everybody talks to you. I mean, these guys are all 6'7", 6'10", like they stand out when they're on campus. Everybody talks to you, like everybody gives you attention, tells you how great you're going to be and all those things. And so it's just, they're getting acclimated to more than just themselves and their teammates, but the whole environment and their living situation for the next year. And so, you know, a lot of those things factor in. I think the school does a lot better job now of, you know, Coach Knight kind of wanted us to learn the hard way. And I think now they help these guys through. They have way better living arrangements than what we had. And, you know, a lot of that comes from because of like the 76 team, and they were undefeated. Like all the national championship teams, like we benefited because of them, and these guys have benefited from that as well.
And this is going to be a season in which the Big Ten, which has had a long drought of winning a national championship, but they're going to start out with two of the teams at near the top of everybody's top 25 with Purdue and Michigan, both having, well, Purdue has got that core coming back, but they've added maybe the right piece, the kid from Israel, and I think there's another one that's usually what we haven't seen, the right addition to that. And maybe that is that. I'm still not certain that they can, I don't want to say compete on the national level because that's not it. But when you get to teams that just have fast guards that are just super fast, and that seems to have been Purdue's kryptonite so far. But they're growing and getting better. You've got a player that in Braden Smith that everybody is picking as the college player of the year already. We'll see how that plays out. But also, we don't know other teams in the Big Ten, Todd, that are going to be there. We don't know what Illinois is going to be like. They've got all those Eastern European players. Man, they could be crazy good. Who knows? I don't know. UCLA, Michigan State, you can't ever leave them out,
right?
For obvious reasons. And where will Indiana fall? Blue Ribbon Yearbook picked Indiana to finish 9th. I think a lot of that is because of the unknown. And that is the fact the year before they picked them to win, so they're maybe a little sore about that.
Yeah, but I mean, like Purdue's not the team you want to compare yourself to because they're just different. Yes, they're awesome and good, and they're cohesive. They got good players, and they're well coached, and all of that. But they're built different than almost every other team across the country, and they do have older players. Like they're in a different category than not just other Big Ten teams, but most other teams, especially most ranked teams across the country. So that I don't think that's the team you really compare yourself to. The one that surprises me as much as anything is Michigan, and why Michigan is, kind of given benefit of the doubt and rated as high as they are, because there's a lot of unknown with them as well. And they lost a lot. Danny Wolf was I thought their heart and soul of their team. And so I'm just surprised that they're ranked as high as they are. And like I said, these rankings don't mean a whole lot once the season starts. Like I think Purdue will most likely be there. Like they're proven. They're the only real proven right now. And so all these other teams that you mentioned and talk about, we know Michigan State will end up being good no matter what. Illinois will probably, I think last year was probably a letdown for Illinois. I think they thought they were going to be quite a bit better than what they were. And they probably learned some stuff about cohesion and getting a team together and getting the European players to play well together and that kind of stuff. And so it is a ton of unknown. And right now we just speculate on what we think is going to happen. But I think this Indiana team is going to be more competitive in more games. Last year, the last few years, they've won most of the games they were supposed to win, and they've lost most of the games they were supposed to lose. And I don't think that's going to be the case this year. I don't think you're going to be able to put them in a most likely lose situation near as easily as you could in the past, because they're going to be fundamentally sound and they're going to play hard. And we're not talking about they don't have talent. They have a ton of talent. So I think that Indiana will be the surprise. And I'm not saying surprise like they're going to win the Big Ten. I'm saying they'll be the surprise. I think everyone will pick them somewhere between 6 and 12 in the Big Ten. And I think they'll probably finish more in the 3 to 6 range.
And that would be a perfect landing spot for them.
Sure.
It would be a successful season for a couple of reasons. Number one, first year of putting that team together like that. Secondly, that's an NCAA qualifying team right there.
Yep.
I think that if you're inside, I don't want to go 9 deep because that's pushing it sometimes. But if you're 8 deep, that's pretty much a guarantee you're going to get in the NCAA. Now, I'm not saying that the Big Ten can't get 9 teams in. Hell, they can. They
might get 10 or 11, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The hell, the SEC had 14 last year. So, but you want to be. If
you finish in that top 6, you finish in that top 6, and you're there. And
yeah.
Look, we're talking about Indiana, Jim. Like this, we shouldn't be talking about the top half or top 8. Like it should be the top 5 every single year. Like it should be a Michigan State conversation every single year, and I think it will be. You've mentioned all the newness, like the new coaches. Basketball is not new to them though. Like it's just the conference that they're in and the style of play, and it will be a little different. But I'll tell you, coming from Drake, they played more like a Big Ten team. This is going to sound bad, but with maybe less highly recruited players than what they have at Indiana.
That's just a fact.
It is just a fact. But they played a lot like Big Ten teams. They were rough. They slowed it down when they needed to slow it down. They played faster when they had a little bit of an advantage. And that's what most Big Ten teams used to be like. Now, you got the Illinois now that are different. Purdue's obviously different than every team in the country. Michigan State's the same as what they've always been. So, there's some variables in it, but I think Indiana is built for success in the Big Ten. And I think success is that top 5 or 6 in the league is considered successful. And it used to be, the old Coach Knight days. If you didn't win the Big Ten, we don't talk about it. And nowadays it's a little different. Back then there was 10. They changed it to 11 teams back when I played, and then it got to 12, and that was like craziness. And now there's 70. So, it's just different. It's a different league, but finishing in that top 5, I think qualifies you as a successful season.
Oh, without question. There's no doubt about that because, like we said, those are automatic NCAA qualifiers, not just NCAA qualifiers, but a good seed if you're in that range.
Yeah.
Purdue, with what they have, that core team that they have had the same players for 4 years, how much of an advantage is that in today's game? Or is it it's got to be somewhat of an advantage without question, but how much of an advantage do you think it is?
I think experience is when you talk to high level athletes, you talk to the Michael Jordans and the Magic Johnsons and stuff of the world. I think experience is one of the best attributes you can have. When you're talking about players and later in their career, look, most of those guys didn't win the NBA championship their first year in the league. Like a few years into it, you get things figured out and then you're pretty much unstoppable. And that's what you can say about all those guys. And when you look at that Purdue team, like they have experience, they have a lot of it, and they are they're going to be, I don't know this factually, but I think they're probably the most experienced team in the country. They got to be really close to it. And so, but I'll also say this, and I'm not saying this like it's a negative, like with all of that comes a lot of expectations. They've already had a lot of success. Finishing in the top 5 for the Big Ten is not a successful season for them. Winning the Big Ten is the only successful season for them. They're kind of like the old Coach Knight teams. And so in that scenario, there's a little added pressure. Now, I'm not saying they can't handle it because they have been there for years. They do understand what they're walking into. They've done it before, and they've played in the national championship game. So these guys have all been there. But there's some added pressures to having that expectation level, and they will definitely have that.
And not only is that expectation level there, it's real. And it's the last chance.
Yeah.
Before they've had the expectations have been on them probably since the sophomore year, or maybe freshman, because you had Zach Edey for 2 years.
Right.
So you had all of those expectations, deservedly so. Then you're off on your own last year for the 3rd year. And now this is your last hurrah, your last opportunity to make it. So you've got, I think, double the pressure. You've got to do it, or how successful could that 4 years
do you look
be?
at agree? And I'll tell you, Jim, like I'm the perfect example of exactly what you're saying. Like there is a different feeling in your senior year. And I was here for 5, Pat Graham, I graduated with, was also here for 5. And then we graduated with Damon, who was only here for 4. But when you get to that last year, it is your last chance. Like you always, and Indiana has that national championship expectation level. And so, if you haven't won a national championship, can you really say you've had a successful career? And at Indiana, like I will tell you, at Indiana, the benchmark is national championship. Yes, you want to win Big Tens and you want to do all of that, and we have those rings and all that, but we did not win a national championship. And in Indiana's how you grade your career at Indiana is on national championships. So Calbert Chaney and Alan Henderson and Brian Evans, all of these very awesome all-star successful players. I mean, we all, I think, in the back of our mind, feel like our careers at Indiana were not fulfilled and completely successful. And I think Purdue is in that exact same scenario. I think this class for those players at at Purdue, if they don't win a national championship, I think it will always be in the back of their mind that their career wasn't complete. And I feel that way to this day.
And now you have to look at that roster and ask yourself, do they have an NBA first-round draft pick on that team? Because if you don't, history says you are not going to win a national championship.
Well, they do. I mean, Braden Smith's going to get drafted. He's going to get drafted.
Everybody keeps saying that, and I just do not see him as being a first-round draft pick. I just think he's too small. He's not quick enough for NBA, but that's just my opinion, and my opinion is worthless. I'll be the first one to tell anybody that. But that's going to be the trick. I mean, he's picked to be the college player of the year already. Everybody thinks he's going to be the guy. So,
I think I compare him a lot. I don't look at his height as a factor. Okay. Now his speed and quickness and that I do consider those factors. There's a lot of guys in the NBA that are his height or smaller. But they have a particular skill set. And you take a Jalen Brunson, he's probably taller than Jalen Brunson, but you're not going to compare him to Jalen Brunson because Jalen Brunson has a specific skill set that he's really, really good at. But I also think that Braden Smith has some intangibles and he has some tangibles that do give him a chance. And you take a guy like Tyler Kolek from Marquette a couple of years ago. I think he's on the Knicks, and I think he'll probably bounce around a little bit and probably end up having a 5 to 8, 10-year career. And I think Braden Smith, in the right situation, in the right team, I do think that he'll play in the NBA. And I do think they'll have a first-round pick. And that's also not to say, like, one of the players that we don't talk about, and I got to go to their practices a couple of times last year. I think, Painter and I are buddies, and he lets me come to practice pretty much whenever I want. And their big guy that got hurt last year, I'm forgetting his name. I think his name's Dan something, but he was a foreign kid that got hurt in their first game. He's 7'3" or whatever it is. He was to be a major part of their team last year, and he's going to be this year. And so it's not just those core 3 or 4 players. Like, they have some addition. Jakari Harris is coming back. I mean, they have a lot of pieces. And like we said, that kid that's coming from overseas, I mean, he would start on, I will guarantee he'd start on every other team in the Big Ten, probably every other team in the country. But he's probably not going to start for Purdue just because of their depth and the position that he plays. And, they have it all. Like, I mean, this is an IU show, but we're talking a lot about Purdue on here today.
No, we talk about Purdue a lot.
And they're in our conference, and therefore we should be worried about them and figure out how to slay the beast. And they're the beast right now. And
they are the king. They are the one that has to be stopped because they have been atop the Big Ten division for quite some time now. Hey, let's take a break. We've got more to talk about, including Hoosier Hysteria. Kind of going away, but not really, but it's being altered greatly. And then I want to talk about the current big time lawsuit going on is players wanting 5 years to play instead of just 4. I'm sure you would have liked to have had that, but
the shot father, Todd Liry from myjumpshot.com with us. If you've got a kid, know a kid, or a kid, reach out to myjumpshot.com to facilitate making your skills much better. Back with more right after these messages.
Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's COYLE, to receive a discounted fundraiser. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer.
Zach Browning here to tell you about an offer you simply can't pass up. If you're looking for the best coverage of Indiana football and basketball, which includes recruiting, weekly chats, podcasts, as well as access to the best national team out there, then look no further than thehoosier.com. The best part, it's just $1 for the first week. Oh, and did I mention that you get a full year of access to The Athletic when you sign up? You can't beat the coverage and you can't beat the deal. So head over to thehoosier.com today and sign up for just $1. It'll be the best decision you ever made.
Huddle up, football fans. Tailgate season is here, and nobody gets you ready for game day like Academy Sports and Outdoors. Swing by your local Academy store or shop online at academy.com to find everything you need, from grills to jerseys and more. Be a watch party legend with gear from top brands like Nike and Under Armour, all at unbeatable prices every day. With 8 Academy stores across Indiana, including our Bloomington location, fun can't lose, and neither can you. Gear up today at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday, heading you into another great sports weekend with game day starting tonight for Indiana on the football field on the gridiron at 6:30, kicking off against Indiana State as they have an early game this weekend, which allows us to sit back and watch a whole weekend full of college football in the NFL. How about the NFL? The games have been pretty damn good so far. Man. Almost every one of them have been fun to watch. And that just makes it way more intriguing. The Colts going for a 2-0 start. A 1-0 start has been amazing because they hadn't done that in a decade and a half nearly. But they looked damn good as well in that first game against Miami.
Yeah, they did. It wasn't just the win. It was the way they won. And they dominated that game. And you don't get to say you dominated an NFL football game very often. And you know, those games, they're proving themselves right now. Like, they come down to the fourth quarter, it seems like, in almost every game. And the Colts really, really look good. Like, every facet of their game looked good. They won. You know, you used to hear Belichick talk about the 3 offense, defense, and special teams. You want to win all 3 sides of those. And the Colts definitely did that. So, yeah, that was a fun game. The NFL is off to a fun start. It's a little different. You know, you've got, Kansas City not looking great and Buffalo looking bad for 3 quarters and coming back and beating Baltimore. And so, I mean, just really good games right off the bat. And you talk about Indiana football, this Friday game, it gives them an extra day to get ready for the Illinois game. That's not a bad thing with injuries and that stuff. But I don't love the Friday game. I know we talked about it a little bit earlier. I get why people don't love it. I shouldn't say that. I probably dislike it less than most because now I get to watch all day Saturday and Sunday, and it'll give me something to watch tonight. So I don't mind it, especially the early start. I might get to see a whole game tonight. It might be my first fourth quarter I've seen in a while.
Wow. Hey, we all hate it because we're kind of traditionalist and,
sure.
And we hate to see high school football.
Anything that would penalize kids, you're against. Like, so
definitely
I mean,
impacting in Bloomington though,
sure.
with that rivalry game, which just kind of sucks that it fell on that weekend, but it is what it is. Hoosier Hysteria, man, a long time staple of Indiana basketball is kind of going away, but it's not. It's just being rebranded, and it is going outside onto Kirkwood Avenue. Louisville does this.
down on, if you've ever been down to Louisville, and they have 4th Street Live, and they're an entertainment district. But the difference between these two is down on 4th Street Live, you have several balconies in which people can overlook the streets and whatnot. That's not going to be the case at Kirkwood. You've got maybe one balcony I can think of. So seems like that would make it difficult to get as many fans in there. Then where the hell is everybody going to park?
I mean, I don't know the answers to those. I'll just say this. And keep in like I'm going to sound like Scrooge here a little bit, but
no,
from a player's perspective, Hoosier Hysteria sucks. Like it sucks. Yeah. It's not good or fun. Like only bad things happen out of it. Like somebody gets hurt.
It's kind of like being a monkey with the organ grinder, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. But let me say this: like this is the benefit to it, and it's a huge benefit. The little kids' faces when they get to interact with the players is literally the only benefit to the whole thing. And being at like, that's the day we probably sign more autographs than any other time because there's no time limit. Like, coach had to stay there and sign until your hand falls off or everybody's gone. And that part of it, I don't want that to go away. Like the little kids, there's going to be a big gap in IU fans from a little kid perspective because they've just not been that good for the last however many years. Like they were good when I was growing up. So you were an IU fan. A lot of us were IU fans because they were always good. And just the little kid aspect of it, that's the only part of it I don't like. Hoosier Hysteria itself is a fans thing. The players hate it. The coaches hate it. And they can't say they hate it, but they hate it. It's awful. And so from that perspective, it's whatever. But I do get, like, I hate the side of it where I hope there's a way that the players are able to interact with not just the fans, but especially the younger fans at that event.
Yeah, and it's going to be kind of wild to see how they're able to make this put together. They're going to have to build courts, I guess.
And you're rolling the dice on October weather in Indiana.
Yes.
It might be beautiful. It might snow. So you're rolling the dice on that one. I mean, anything in October can happen. I mean, think about it. We've had 80-degree Halloweens and we've had 3 feet of snow on Halloween. So anything can happen in October in Indiana weather.
Yeah, it is a little bit of a risk, but it's going to be interesting to see how they're able to do it, how they're able to manage getting the fans in there. And like I said, parking, there's just going to be that brings a lot of issues. It's not like you've got tons of great parking down around Kirkwood Avenue. It's going to be catch.
Tons is an exaggeration. There's not even a decent amount.
Yeah. I don't know if they'll do some shuttling from
probably
out at the stadium to do that. But I understand why they're doing it to a degree because it creates something to create excitement, something different.
Yeah.
And if it goes off, it will be probably viewed as successful as long as they can manage all of the logistics. And that's the thing. It's the logistics that you just pointed out. Making sure you're serving the people you're trying to serve. And it just seems like you're going to have less control in that with streets.
Well, the thing I haven't seen so far, I haven't really heard anybody talk about it. And I saw the idea of it, and I'm not for or against it. I guess I don't know what the total goal of the thing is. When you're going to build courts and do that downtown, so is that for the students to come down and play 3-on-3 or 5-on-5 or whatever? Like what is the goal of having an event like that? And I hope it's some type of interaction between the youth fans and the players and the current coaches and all of that stuff. I just hope it turns into a fun. It doesn't need to be. This is the one thing that we always said about the Hoosier Hysteria thing. It doesn't need to be centered around the activity of basketball. Let it be an event where it's more of an interaction between the players and the fans. And that I think would be a more successful Hoosier Hysteria. we had it different, with Coach Knight. We ran a regular practice, and you got to come in and watch it. And when he got mad, everybody loved it. And so, there was that side of it that I get. And now it's just different. Like, I just hope that they have a way to interact with the young fans. And I think, if you talk to Coach DeVries after the Hubler winery thing, like, he was in all of that. He loved the fan interaction and all that. I think that's a new part of his job that he will embrace and like. And he's an instant celebrity here in Bloomington. He's been an important person in West Virginia, and he was a pretty important person at Drake. He's a full-blown celebrity with paparazzi and wanting to know everywhere you eat and everything you do instantly the minute he walks into this building. And so that's the new life that he's adjusting to. And I hope that this event has a way of, having all the new players and the new coaches enjoy it, and the fans, especially the young fans, enjoy the interaction.
Well, like Kurt Signetti, who I think has embraced his new celebrity
stardom.
role.
Yeah.
Darren DeVries is doing it in a little bit different way, but he seems to be embracing it as well, but in a very natural way. He's very open. He's very engaging. I know the people that got to go on the trip to Puerto Rico, the team and the coaches were all involved in the daily activities with the fans that were in attendance. And he's just a normal guy.
He's a dude. He's a dude, but he's a basketball dude. And
yeah, if you met him on the street, you wouldn't know that he's the Indiana basketball coach unless you know it.
This is kind of that's exactly right. This is kind of how I described him, as if you met him at the airport and you were sitting there talking, I'm the head coach at Indiana University men's basketball, would probably not be something that comes out of his mouth. Like, you'd probably have to ask him what he did. Like, he's not there to gloat. Like, he's just an average dude when it comes to that stuff. And that is fun. Like, that's a cool situation. He'll, as anyone, human nature and all of it, he'll get a little callous to all of it down the road. Like, he'll not less embrace it, but maybe not seek it out quite as much down the road. Like, everyone is that way. You'll want a little privacy. Right now it's fine. He's in year one. Like, you want the Signetti situation. You want to surprise everybody in the nation. You want all the publicity you can get. And then, after Signetti does this for 3 or 4 years, he'll probably want to tone it down a little bit on his end, not the successful end, but just be a little less on radio shows and TV shows and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, because you're getting to you're doing this much and this much and this much, and you're fine with that. But all of a sudden, that side just keeps growing. Yep. You're like, whoa, wait a minute.
And you don't get more time. You don't gain more time in the day to do it.
And that's it. It's starting to take up your time, sure. and that is when it really starts to probably, hey, we gotta trim this back a little bit, which it sucks because once it reaches that, it affects everybody else. Now you may have been in that smaller group and it was acceptable, but now you're just in the mix of all of it. So, Hoosier Hysteria moving. It's going to be called Hoosiers on Kirkwood. So it's going to be interesting to see how that goes off, how the weather plays out, and hopefully it'll be fun. Now we've got Indiana football about to start Big Ten season next week with a prime time football game at 7:30 under the lights on NBC. You're going to have 2 3-0 teams going at it, a top 10 matchup with Illinois, and once again, Indiana football bringing the attention to Bloomington.
Yeah, look, you're starting it out. A lot of times, I think this game that's happened early in the year, like I can remember back a few times, this first early game has been against like Penn State or Ohio State or somebody that we probably weren't going to beat or probably weren't even going to be competitive with. And this one's different. Like, we're playing a really good team. We might get beat, even though we're playing at home. Like, we're playing a really, really good team, but we're also a really, really good team. And playing at home, Indiana should win this game. And if you take our allegiance to this program and IU out of it and say this is Georgia, Alabama, you would probably expect the home team to win. not knowing a ton about either one. I don't know a ton about Illinois. Like, I watched them just a tiny little bit, but they were playing a bad team, so it was kind of hard to even tell if they were great or the other team was bad. And you don't know a ton about Indiana yet. Even though we've watched 2 full games, they've had series where they looked unbeatable, and they've had series where they looked very beatable. So it's just going to be the first real test where we'll know, we're within 1 week of knowing how good this team and this season is going to be for Indiana, and a win against a top 10 team like Illinois this early in the season would certainly be a big time win for them.
Yeah, and it'll certainly be a way of starting the season for the Indiana fans as they get to come out and stay past halftime into the fourth quarter, which I expect will be the case. Hey, I don't blame anybody.
I don't either.
On when you're playing Indiana State or Kennesaw State, when you're up like they're up, I'm sorry.
And when you have a 3-hour drive home,
or the weather is like it is, I'm like, come on, man. Why? Indiana doesn't have football fans like that just yet, and that's going to take a long time to build, but it's also going to take the changes that I think are coming. I had Scott Dolson on yesterday. I wish I'd have known about the daggone Hoosier Hysteria thing at the time. I didn't, damn it. But anyway, I did ask. The SEC has gone to 9 conference games with the requirement still of having to play a P4 team in your balance of your non-con games. So now the Big Ten, which already plays 9 games, but they don't have that P4 requirement, which that's why it's been all the bashing of Indiana and its schedule, whatnot. So we'll see how that works out.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you go talk about those other programs, Oklahoma, Nebraska, Georgia, Alabama, when those teams play a much lesser opponent, like Indiana's playing Indiana State or like they played in the last couple of weeks, those people don't come back after halftime. Those fans don't come back after halftime either. Indiana fans are no different. Purdue fans are no different. They all do that the same way. Now, when you see Georgia and Alabama playing each other and the halftime score is 21-17 or 17-14, some close game, yeah, they're there in the fourth quarter. And that's the way, those are the games that are on national TV. That's exactly the way it'll be at Indiana. If it's a 21-24 game in the fourth quarter, yeah, the stands will still be packed. If it's 48-9, no, it's not going to be packed. And that's just human nature in the way it is. I'm the first guy to leave when it's a blowout. I'll tell you, I'm not even hiding it. I'm the first guy to leave, and there's nothing you can do to convince me otherwise.
I can't say that I don't understand. I do. But when the games get good, it'll be different. And
it will be. It totally will be. And we're media people. We're kind of required to stay till the end. So we kind of have a pass in all of that, except for the average fan. I do not blame them in the slightest. I know you don't either.
The end and then some. What's up next for you, brother? It looks like it's going to be a nice, relaxing weekend.
Yeah, there's going to be some football on the TV and probably a golf ball down on the ground in front of me at some point.
I would imagine it is. Well, as always, I appreciate you, and I hope you have a great one. Enjoy this great weekend as we start heading into the heart of the football season next week. But there are some Big Ten games this week. Oregon, I think Oregon's the best team in the country, by the way.
I haven't seen them play at all.
I haven't got to see them play a lot, but I've just seen they just look really together already. But we'll see as Indiana has a chance when they go out to Eugene in a few weeks. But enjoy your weekend, sir.
You do the same. Thank you.
Todd Liry from myjumpshot.com joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Up next, Zach Austerman will join us from the Indy Star as the IU Insider. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle right after these messages.
If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com.
Huddle up, football fans. Tailgate season is here, and nobody gets you ready for game day like Academy Sports and Outdoors. Swing by your local Academy store or shop online at academy.com to find everything you need, from grills to jerseys and more. Be a watch party legend with gear from top brands like Nike and Under Armour, all at unbeatable prices every day. With 8 Academy stores across Indiana, including our Bloomington location, fun can't lose, and neither can you. Gear up today at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle on this Friday of game weekend, but game night for Indiana and a few other teams. Zach Austerman, the IU insider for the Indy Star, joins us. And Zach, we're getting our sports weekend started a little early, and unfortunate. It's always unfortunate when you have the Friday games, but really ironically unfortunate when you have the local teams rivalry playing each other. I mean, they really are kind of getting hit. Bloomington North and South high schools here in Bloomington, they play each other tonight. So really bad luck for them that game gets scheduled. I don't know how much either are going to be impacted. And I don't know which is going to be impacted more.
Yeah, this isn't the first time this has happened in the last few years. And I mean, it does bring into stark relief, frankly. And I mean, I work for the Indianapolis Star, so the North and South aren't in our coverage area, but I live in Bloomington, and more broadly, like I agree with a lot of people, and Tom Allen articulated this, I think, better than most. Friday night should belong to high schools. That like in the same way that we say that Saturday should belong to college, and the NFL doesn't move on Saturday until the college regular season is over. Friday night should belong to high schools. Now, of course, part of the reason this wound up happening is because the NFL moved on Thursdays, and that pushed more college games off of Thursday. I mean, Thursday night used to be like when I was growing up, like you had a good Thursday ACC and or SEC matchup like every weekend. And the Big Ten tried to move in on that. Of course, Indiana fans will remember the Indiana-Ohio State game to start the 2017 season when game day was here for the first time, kind of in a scaled down format. But the wider point is, it is in stark relief that this is at least the second time, if not more than that, that we've seen the North-South game, not just high school football, have to give over to college football, to a game that fans do not want on Friday night, but TV partners do, that high school football locally has been very directly impacted. And, I even toyed with at one point with going and covering the North-South game instead of the IU game. And obviously that's not practical according to my job, but it is, I guess it would have felt a little bit like advocacy journalism to just say, I'm sorry, but this, like, high school football needs one night that belongs to high school football. And, I understand we all got to make money, and I understand revenue sharing is driving things up, driving costs up and all that different stuff. But none of it matters if you wind up eating the product itself. And the more you push more high school football to the side, the more you marginalize high school football, the more it will affect the product moving all the way up the levels. And it's just, I'm fundamentally opposed to it. I think I'm not alone in that. Again, I don't know many, if any, IU fans that are particularly excited this game is on a Friday night rather than on, a Saturday morning or a Saturday night or whatever, or Saturday afternoon, I should say, or Saturday night. But I don't have the power over that. So that's the way it is, I guess.
Yeah, it is. I'm a little surprised that this is the Indiana game that they picked that needed to go on Friday and be on TV, because it will probably be the least competitive game Indiana plays this season. And not only that, you're taking another state school. You've got two Indiana state schools that are playing on this Friday night, but it's neither here nor there, because it's all money driven. Like you said, it's driven by the TV partners that have that control, and that's how it will always be.
The fact that it's on Friday night should tell you, and I don't want to be dismissive of Indiana State, and it has. I mean, this whole week has been kind of awkward because everyone has been waiting for the Illinois game for so long. But the fact that it's on Friday night kind of like makes, that tells you what the networks think of it. You know what I mean? Like that the fact that it is on a Friday night, that they and it's on a Friday night, 6:30. I mean, that is not like prime real estate at all in any sense. This is throwaway inventory, and I don't want to be flippant, but it is. It is throwaway inventory that, there was a time in like, even in my adulthood, when this game probably wouldn't be on TV at all, or it might be on like ESPN, when we first got into ESPN Plus or something like that. The point is, it's the fact that they're playing it Friday at 6:30 tells you what they actually think of the game. And so there is an element of saying, well, then why aren't you just playing it on Saturday? But we both know why. And, listen, I mean, Big Ten revenues are supposed to surpass $75 million per school next year. So I like, what's the number at which you can soothe your soul? I don't know.
It's like on Breaking Bad, Walt, how much is enough? How much is enough? But that's all dependent. Everything keeps rising. So, and we can talk about it all we want, and it's not going to change it. So it doesn't matter. I guess now getting to the game, Indiana looking to improve things. I think more so on defense. I think they want to tighten things up on offense, as we saw some improvement last week. But the defense is still kind of I don't know if I should use the word concern. But I know that Coach Cignetti talked about needing better communication there in the middle, because that is where we have seen these chunk plays that they've given up kind of uncharacteristically in these first two games, 75 and 78-yard run in game one, and then several 15-yard plays in the game against Kennesaw State, which they just got to shut that down, especially when you go up against a team like Illinois, who is going to have a really good offense.
Yeah, I mean, I think that to me, I think you talk about, like, you don't want to say like there's huge weakness defensively, because it's kind of been different things in the first 2 weeks. I think the one constant is you feel like the back end of the defense needs cleaned up, and I think that is relevant because that secondary was something we had. We said you have Amari Farrell, you have D'Angelo Pons, you've got some pieces that anchor you back there. But the idea that, the idea that there was still going to be a lot to sort out there, both from a sort of a personnel and a depth perspective. And then you see, I mean, they aren't solely culpable for some of the breakdowns that have come in the first two games, but they've certainly been they've been involved. They have been at the scene of the crime. And I think, I just think that, I guess what I'm trying to say is it would feel a little bit different if we hadn't already recognized this as an area of potential concern in the preseason and in the off season. And so, to your point, Luke Altmaier, talented Illinois offense, maybe, kind of struggled to really get out of first gear against Duke for a while there, but eventually they put up 45 points on the road. You can't, sort of thumb your nose at that. If you're not ready in pass defense, you're going to be in trouble. it's just that simple. And I think that it is fair to be concerned. I wouldn't, lose sleep over it at this point, but it is fair to be concerned. I think that's fair.
And they, of course, got this game tonight against Indiana State to get ready for Illinois next week, and we will be looking forward to that to see where that improvement definitely comes, because that's going to be not only a telltale sign, but that's going to be a waypoint for Indiana's season. Winning that game promotes you to being able to make a return to the college football playoffs. You lose that game, and it's going to be an uphill battle to get there. Switching subjects, there's a little ACC bleeding over into the Big Ten now, with Ohio State, the president, now wanting or intimating that there will be talks about how the revenue sharing within the conference is handled out, and basically that Ohio State deserves more money than, say, Northwestern. And on paper, I can't say that I disagree with that, but it's just been a long-term deal of everything being split equally. But I understand their argument against certain teams like, say, Northwestern, who doesn't bring much to the conference. And I'm not blaming Northwestern. There's UCLA. What are they really bringing? They're in a great TV market, but what are they truly bringing to the conference? But this is going to be a prickly issue no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, shameless plug. I'm gonna put together a video about this later, so I'm not gonna talk about it at all here, so everyone comes and monetizes my YouTube channel. No.
Well, make sure you promote it. When's it gonna come out?
We usually post I'm the one who does it. Not that it's anything overly special. I usually post the Friday rundown video around lunchtime. I literally was, like, before I came on here, was making out a whole sort of agenda for it. So to give you some context, the Big Ten and the SEC have long split their money evenly. The smaller conferences for a long time in various different ways. And when I say smaller conferences, I'm even talking about kind of the let's call the SEC and the Big Ten what they are. They're the Power Two. I'm talking about everybody beyond them. The Big 12 used to give Texas more money. The ACC is, as you mentioned, has transitioned now to a model where I think the structure is that basically your payouts are going to be determined in part by like a rolling 5-year assessment of like you're basically just how often you're on TV and how good the numbers are when you're on TV. And that was obviously designed to placate primarily Florida State and Clemson that were members that were threatening Florida State in legal terms to try and find a way to break the grant of rights and leave the ACC. There are some key differences here. Number one is that the money is so substantially different, and I think people know, like you hear them say the Big Ten makes more money than the ACC, but Whit Babcock is the AD at Virginia Tech. He went in front of his Board of Regents a few weeks ago, and he gave a presentation talking about basically needing university funding over the next few years to remain competitive at the highest level of college athletics. And he said Virginia Tech's operating budget last season, I'm trying to find it here. I can't read my own handwriting. Virginia Tech's operating budget was $122 million last season. Now, I don't have the number for football specific revenues, but I think we can all recognize that probably historically Virginia Tech makes more money on football specific revenue than Indiana does in terms of tickets sold, butts and seats, all that kind of stuff. Lane Stadium is one of the more iconic venues, obviously in the ACC. It is, if I'm not mistaken, significantly larger. It seats about 15,000 more people than Indiana, than Memorial Stadium does. Virginia Tech shouldn't necessarily be worlds ahead of Indiana, but certainly should not be in a situation where it is by more than $50 million poorer than Indiana athletics. That is an enormous number. And the idea that, these schools are not even peers. Like, it's not like Indiana's got a nicer car. It's like they don't live in the same neighborhood anymore. And so, there is this widening gap, this sort of more microscopic or micro level stratification across the sport. There is a raft of the next big shakeup everyone pretty much expects is starting in 2030. The Big Ten's, and I got these numbers here, the Big Ten's TV deal expires in 2030. The Big 12's does in 2031. The NCAA tournament deal expires in 2032. The SEC is in 34, and the ACC isn't until 36. Everyone expects that that's when the next big shakeup is going to happen, because at the end of the day, the reality is there just are, like, the TV money pot is not expanding anymore. And so whereas before, for like 15 years, the formula was essentially just to look at who signed which one of the power conferences signed the last big TV deal, throw, an 8% markup on that, and go to ESPN, ABC, go to Fox, go to NBC, and say, who wants us? That pot of money is not expanding anymore, and everyone's trying to get more of it, which means, at least, it is to a certain extent, but it's not at all the way it was. The boomtown days are over. So that means that what's going to have to happen is, in terms of large numbers, you're going to go have to take money from someone else. And there's what we are going to see over the latter half of this decade is a lot of posturing and politicking and positioning from different entities to try and be ready to essentially serve their own interests best when the ground starts shifting again with this raft of TV deals that are going to be coming up, and the way that we're going to start rearranging TV partners and money, financial payouts and everything. I would say things on both sides for anyone who did not read the story. It's my colleague, Steve Berkowitz at USA Today. Steve is a great reporter. He's as smart about all this stuff as anyone. I would say two things sort of in opposition to one another. On the one hand, Ted Carter, if you read his comments, kind of, and I talked to, I don't want to pull the curtain back too much, but I talked to Steve a little bit about how the whole thing came together, the interview itself. Ted Carter, who's the Ohio State president, he was certainly kind of evasive and reluctant. He didn't just come out and say, time to give us more money. That he was trying very hard not, if you read his comments, I think it's probably fair to say he was trying very hard not to appear too aggressive, too bullish. It felt at best like a trial balloon, just sort of float this up there, see what happens. On the other hand, Ted Carter was the president of Nebraska for 4 years. I think he started at Ohio State at the beginning of this year. He is intimately familiar with the Big Ten. This isn't some outsider coming in kind of running his mouth. Ted Carter knew what he was saying when he said this. And in particular, I think the money quote that a lot of people, including me, when I wrote something earlier in the week, pulled out was, I suspect I forget, I'm paraphrasing, but basically that's something that conversations will be had about that, going forward. To me, the most compelling thing he actually said was invoking Ohio State's appeal on television, because that's, again, you want to go to the ACC model. I think the Mountain West is in this model to obviously a much more scaled down degree. That is how the money's getting split up right now in places where it's uneven. So to invoke that specifically, I think, does give you a sense of Ted Carter's mind and give you a sense of Ohio State's position. Now, I've been talking a lot, so I'll shut up for a minute. But the question is what Ohio State threatens to do if it asks for this and doesn't get it. Because unlike the ACC, which in modern terms really would not be able to survive without Florida State, without Clemson, without Miami, and so forth, the Big Ten can look around and say, hey, we want more revenues, but we're all doing all right. Like we are at the top end of collective earnings here. we're paying our bills, we're not desperate, and you don't have another conference to go to. So what would Ohio State threaten in that case? And I think that is where, if you play the tape through to the end, if you want to look at the sort of nuclear scenario, that's the question that Ohio State would have to answer.
Yeah, and that's probably not a question that'll go away, because then you've got programs like Michigan who may fall into that same line. Oregon, Penn State, if those teams continue to stay at the top of the football food chain in the Big Ten, and then you'll have programs like Indiana, Illinois, that are there in the middle, that are rising up to that level, but not there yet, but want to stay there. So there's going to be a lot of facets to the story, a lot of ins and outs. If you're a big Lebowski fan, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, to use the nomenclature, the answer is a super league. That's the threat here. I think you will find more differing views than you might have 3 or 4 years ago on whether the money is out there to make a super league viable. I know a person who's very smart in the television space, worked in it for a long time, who for years just said super league, that's what's coming. Some form of super league. Maybe it's 20 teams, maybe it's 40 teams, some form of super league. Last time I talked to them about it, they were a lot more skeptical of the idea, just because not because there wouldn't be an appetite in some corners. There wouldn't be some schools that would say, yeah, we'll sign up for that, especially a Clemson, Florida State. But the idea that the money would be enough to justify everything else that would get torn down, every other bridge that would get burned, and every sort of future outcome that might be negative from said Super League. So anyway, we are not there yet. We're not even close to there yet. And I would encourage anyone who is interested to go look at some of the parallels in European football. Like that is the most direct comparison culturally and financially to college football in the United States. And they've been threatening a Super League for 30 years. Like it is an ever-present thing over there. So it's, nobody needs to hit the red button, but it is relevant that someone with the authority and the decision-making, sort of impetus came out and said this week.
Yeah, so we'll see how that rolls, man. Well, I'll let you go as you prepare for game day as Indiana kicks off tonight at 6:30 at Memorial Stadium, welcoming in the Indiana State Sycamores and finishing out the non-conference part of their season as they prepare for a top 10 clash with the Illini next Saturday night under the lights, 7:30 on NBC. That should be a very, very fun time. What's up next for you, Zachary?
We'll all be at Memorial Stadium tonight.
Yes, sir. Well, enjoy the rest of your day, at least.
You too, sir. We'll see you out there for some stale hot dogs and hopefully a fast football game.
Yeah, exactly. Zach Austerman, the IU insider for the Indy Star. Make sure you're giving him a follow and being a subscriber, keeping local papers alive. More coming up. Alec Lazley from the Hoosier.com will join us as Indiana basketball has a big visit starting today. Back with more from Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle right after these messages.
The ISC Sports Network is your home for sports content across the Hoosier State. Find us live on TV and streaming or archived on our website and our app. The ISC is your one-stop shop for the content you want to see, including high school sports, college sports, and other great events throughout the year. Subscribe to our streaming service and get access to it all. ISC, local lives here.
Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's COYLE, to receive a discounted fundraiser.
If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today.
When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday. Jim Coyle with you, Alec Lazley joining us for our segment here from the Hoosier.com, and lots of little things going on for Indiana basketball right now. Mainly, they start a big-time visit with a primary target in Anthony Thompson, a 5-star shooting forward. That visit starts today. And what's the lowdown?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, very, very critical visit. They've prioritized him pretty much up there with, Latrell Almond and Ethan Taylor as kind of the core 3 targets of this 2026 class for quite some time now. Was the very first player that the new staff visited after they got the job and started getting out on the road and recruiting. So he's been a priority target for pretty much since day one of this new staff. He's obviously visited Indiana numerous times, albeit with the previous staff, but he knows what this campus is like. He knows what the Indiana vibe is like, but vastly different now, right? Different style of play, different coaches, different relationships, different outlook, different probably enthusiasm and just feel around the program than what it was, 6-8 months ago and a year ago when he was taking these visits. As of right now, it seems to be kind of shaping up to be that Indiana-Michigan battle. Indiana's done a phenomenal job. They visited him last week. Coach DeVries went with Nick Norton and Rod Clark, visited Anthony Thompson the first day of the open live evaluation period, live recruiting period that opened up on September 3rd. And then was told that on Wednesday they visited him again with assistant coach Drew Adams. So they visited him twice in the last week. Obviously, 48 hours then before his official visit begins here today. So it's clear that they have prioritized him from a recruiting standpoint. Michigan's done a phenomenal job in this recruitment. North Carolina started to gain a little bit of momentum after the very first visit that he took a couple weeks ago. Visited Ohio State. Ohio State's been kind of a weird team in there, the home state school for him at this point. But most people that I talk to seem to be kind of around the area of Ohio State's in there, but definitely have a lot of ground to make up. And the 2 teams that consistently are brought up are Indiana, Michigan. So it's a critical visit for Indiana to really, I would say, take this recruitment with both hands and kind of put a stranglehold on what's to come. He has 2 visits upcoming after this weekend, Texas and Kentucky. People that I talk to think potentially Kentucky could make a move, but they're so involved with numerous other 5-star wings that it's a very tricky situation of whoever commits first is probably going to be their take. And they're obviously very, very heavily involved with Tyron Stokes, the number 1 overall prospect in the class. And that's who their 1A target's going to be, right? So he seems to be trending more towards Kentucky than Anthony Thompson is at the moment. So you would think that probably has a little bit of weight to pull when Kentucky's looking at both of those targets. Indiana, obviously very, very involved with numerous top 35 guys, but not numerous 5 stars who are at the same position. So they've pretty much singled out Anthony Thompson as that, 6'8" wing that they're going after. Some thoughts of whether he and Latrell Allman could play alongside each other. I think they can. Obviously, Latrell Allman, the very first visit that this coaching staff had back in June from an official visit perspective, and Indiana's been probably the team to beat in that recruitment for quite some time. But this one's stretched out a lot longer. But the question is whether those two could probably play together. I think they could. They have different skill sets, but Latrell Allman, more of a 4-3 kind of hybrid forward, where Anthony Thompson's definitely more of a true 3 with his athleticism and more lanky build, where Allman's definitely more of not a similar style of player, but think of him more as kind of that Juwan Morgan type, where he can play out on the perimeter, but also still play a little bit in the post, but a much more better ball handler than Juwan Morgan is at that point. But that'll be kind of the question mark if Indiana does potentially land Anthony Thompson is what happens with Latrell Allman, and vice versa. If they land Latrell Allman and Anthony Thompson hasn't committed yet, what happens there? Because I think that's the only question mark. I think Indiana feels very good about landing one of those two. Then it's just about, which one, and then where the rest of that class goes after that.
Yeah, and from what I've seen from the open practice, from the games in Puerto Rico firsthand, I don't see why they couldn't, because the way that Darren DeVries is running his team is built on guys like this. And he has a handful of them, and I think he always will have a handful of them because they're kind of interchangeable. They can play different multiple positions. So, yeah, I don't think that would actually be an issue that they are playing together. I think that the way, like I said, that we're going to see Indiana run, that wouldn't be an issue at all. Very important month. Oh, go ahead.
I would say frame it around, do they want to play with each other? Not necessarily.
Why would they not? If I don't understand why they wouldn't if they didn't feel they were competing against each other, which they shouldn't, I wouldn't think.
Yeah, but it's more along the lines of, I mean, here at the end of the day, Anthony Thompson's projected to be a one and done player at this current moment, right? He's a number 6 player in the class and has had a phenomenal summer, even a better summer shooting the ball than I think what people expected, shooting nearly 40% from 3. And that was kind of not necessarily the question mark, because he's always been a good shooter, but it's been the consistency portion of that. So he checked that box this entire summer, had 4 of 6 final games in the Adidas Championships, 30-plus point performances. So he can absolutely light it up. The question is, though, Latrell Allman is not probably a guy who wants to be a 4-year player. He's also a guy that's not going to be a one and done, but he needs to be able to obviously showcase some of that skill set. And would he be okay potentially playing, second fiddle to a guy like Anthony Thompson coming in, who Allman's still a top 25 player in the class, right? So he's obviously a very, very talented player from that perspective, but not as talented of a shooter. Definitely has a little bit more weaknesses, I would say, in his overall game than Anthony Thompson does, just the sheer fact that Anthony Thompson is so athletic and can overcome some of those deficiencies. So it's whether or not Allman wants to play behind that more so than, take a little bit of that shadow away from potentially what he can be into. Indiana's obviously going to go hard after both of them. It's just more of, in this day and age, right? Every guy wants to be a one and done. Everyone wants to go to a situation where they can showcase their skills on day one. And I think that's just the question that they're going to have to ask themselves. I think you're going to get a lot of answers once these players start to see what this system looks like and see that, if you have 2 Reed Baileys out on the floor, that's a huge positive. And Indiana is going to really, really utilize that in numerous areas. And I think, from that kind of positional situation, right, where both of those guys can handle the ball, much like Reed Bailey can, not make plays probably the way that he can, but they want all the Reed Baileys they can have from a roster standpoint. And so I think you're going to see them continue to push for those 6'7" to 6'9" versatile forwards. But it's just, again, whether these kids want to play with each other from that perspective and maybe take away a little bit of what, their skill set would be able to showcase in that area.
Yeah, we'll certainly find out, as this is a very, very important recruiting month for Indiana. They have already had a visit by Latrell Allman. That was back in June. Also Junior County. Love that name, man. I will never get past that. Love it. That happened just a week ago. And recap that. How did that visit go?
Yeah, so it went really well for Indiana. Indiana offered at the end of June, after the June evaluation period, and initially, kind of skyrocketed into a very, very good spot in that recruitment. Going into the visits, UConn, Maryland, probably the two teams that got the most amount of buzz from that area. He had already visited Purdue. He had already visited Maryland or Texas A&M. And then so the connection with Buzz Williams and that Texas A&M staff followed to Maryland, hence the Maryland connection. The biggest kind of momentum swinger, though, is where you can clearly tell that this visit went very well is how Indiana is now going all in for Junior County. They saw also the writing on the wall with Tay Kinney and saw that was shaping up to be very much a Kansas-Louisville battle, and they were a distant third. So not to say that they stopped that recruitment altogether, but they put all their eggs kind of in that Junior County basket and did a really, really good job showcasing not only the versatility that they want to play with multiple guards on the floor, but specifically multiple playmakers. And Junior County can play both on and off the ball. Definitely better fit probably on the ball, but a top 35 point guard did a phenomenal job as a lead guard this summer, both offensively and defensively. Very, very strong physical defender. Plays a lot like Tayton Connerway does in certain ways from that area. So it's a skill set that matches exactly what this coaching staff wants. I would say Indiana definitely gained a lot of ground in that recruitment, but I still think UConn, as we go into these next couple visits, is still probably that team to beat. But Indiana's in a much better spot now than they were just a week ago.
And speaking of UConn, Braylon Mullins, a projected starter there this season. So that'll be interesting. Also, another huge visit coming up for Indiana with Ethan Taylor next weekend as this very, very important month of September rolls on. And what a time to bring him in, because the environment would be electric. I'm not sure how much that carries over with that added excitement, because that's not going to be there tonight. I will guarantee you, when they go out to the football game for however long they're there, it might be some fun, but it's not going to be next weekend, which is just going to be an electric environment. But Ethan Taylor from Link Academy in Missouri coming in. I know the fight is between Indiana and Kansas on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's pretty much been that way for a while now. Kansas had the leg up in that recruitment, the hometown school, right? The biggest thing is going to be, whether or not Kansas, truly shows that they need him and that they want him. Indiana has showed that, and I think that's where the difference of the two programs have come, and where you see a little bit of that shift over the last month and a half, and how Indiana has kind of skyrocketed into that 1A, 1B spot, right, with Kansas. They're clearly the top two teams entering this visit spree that he has. I think you look at Kentucky kind of as that third team there. And Michigan State is still trying to get in there as well. So I think you look at kind of those as the four, but Kentucky and Michigan State clearly a tier lower at the moment, right, going into these visits. But Indiana needs a center. Indiana's prioritized centers in this class. They've also now really put both feet into that Ethan Taylor recruitment again about a month and a half ago, and with the connections that they have with Rod Clark. That's something that you want to go all in on. Was not only a coach for Mocan Elite, the AAU program that Ethan Taylor played on, but his previous high school, Sunrise Christian, Rod Clark also coached at. They're both from Missouri. Rod Clark has tremendous connections in the Missouri area, so that's something in the Kansas City specifically area where you want to prioritize any guy that's going to come out of there, and that's why any of those kind of Midwestern, specifically Mocan or Sunrise Christian, or even Link Academy, those kind of three areas and those three programs are going to be prioritized by Rod Clark because of the connections and relationships that he has. And that's something that specifically in this Ethan Taylor recruitment could go a long way. And I think that's why it's going to come down to, if Kansas really makes it a priority to show him that they need and want him, that may be too difficult to overcome. But up to this point, I don't think they've shown that enough. and Indiana clearly has. Kansas also going after Davion Atkins, not the exact same position, a former Indiana target who did have an official visit scheduled but canceled that. That's something that could play into it. Indiana obviously, going all in with Ethan Taylor, so we'll see what happens. But that's these next 2 weekends will, I think, kind of show you how this 2026 class could be made up, and probably will define what this 2026, this first recruiting class for Darren DeVries, ultimately shapes up to.
And we've seen Indiana for the last few years, even under the last couple of years of the Mike Woodson regime, be involved with a lot of these high-profile recruits, but not really landing them. But there seems to be a difference here. What is the palpable difference that you've seen, heard, read, and understand between then and now?
Darren DeVries, the head coach involvement, that's by far and away the main difference, right?
That was a quick answer too.
Well, and I think it shouldn't be a surprise, right? When you look at how frequently he's out during the AAU season. There were multiple times where he visited 2 or 3 cities in one day, multiple events in the same weekend. He's been out on the road now back-to-back weeks where he saw Ethan Taylor, right? A guy who obviously has an official visit coming up, but doesn't want to wait for that official visit to get here because this is now closing time for a lot of these coaches. And, especially when you're going up against a very strong recruiting staff in Kansas, you want to do everything that you can to make sure that he again feels prioritized. And, he's doing everything that he needs to. You're going to start landing, some of these, right? This is the fact that they already have a 2026 commitment going into, this stage of where now multiple guys start to commit. That's way ahead of where Indiana has been in previous years. They had always been coming from behind to try to land some of these kids. Right now, they're, again, with Anthony Thompson, Latrell Allman, Ethan Taylor, this is a good situation that you want to be in, but it's a situation that wouldn't have been there up to this point if Darren DeVries was not heavily involved. I mean, I think Latrell Allman, he told me that this was back in May when he got the official offer. Like the night when he got the offer, Darren DeVries was texting him. The next day, Darren DeVries called him, and it's just his involvement with all of these players from day one is what makes this recruiting cycle a lot different internally. Because if Indiana needs to shift and go from one player to the next, it doesn't feel like they're trying to prioritize this kid a lot more than what it was a month prior. Whereas the previous staff, the head coach and Mike Woodson was not involved for a large portion of these recruitments. And once he did get involved, it was either too late or you could tell that Indiana was kind of scrambling because they figured out that they probably weren't going to land, kid X, Y, and Z over here. So the fact that Darren DeVries is involved from day one with a lot of these recruitments is the by far the main difference and why Indiana this time around will do a much better job landing some of these high-profile targets.
So, and in talking to these recruits, does there seem to be a perceptual difference now between how they are actually viewing the potential of picking IU over versus somebody else? Is that something that you can see or hear through the conversation and how their intentions have laid out to be?
Yeah, I mean, it's very, and it could be a basic response for a lot of other coaches, right? But the genuine feel of this coaching staff and specifically Darren DeVries, right? It's very similar to Kurt Cignetti, when a lot of the players and coaches are saying that he's the exact same person with the media that he is with recruits, with his players, with his family, going out for a beer or whatever the case may be, right? Their personalities don't change. And I think that's the biggest difference from, a lot of these previous coaches on both the Indiana football and basketball side, right, of previous years, where not to say personalities changed, but personalities seem to be maybe a little bit bigger than what they should be. And these personalities are perfect for where the university is right now. And I think, they've done a phenomenal job pinpointing, true coaches where personalities come maybe third on the totem pole of what they're really prioritizing. And they, obviously Kirk Cignetti's not boring with the media, but sometimes he can just be a little short in some of his answers and not as elaborate as we were used to, right, with the super long-winded Tom Allen answers. But Kirk Cignetti says what you want to hear. And that I say that from a point of he's very detailed in what he says, and he doesn't add in extra words that he doesn't need to. And it's very similar with Darren DeVries, right? He's not super energetic from an interview perspective, right? He's almost boring, but the boring is good sometimes, and he's very detailed. You can tell, right, every single game in Puerto Rico or in the practices or even in any sort of other interviews that we've had with him, he's so basketball minded in terms of being so detailed into script when he talks that he doesn't need to have a big personality to overcome that, because he's so good in what he says and how he says it. And he's very baseline and doesn't really change his demeanor from one conversation to the next. And I think that's the biggest thing, right? A lot of these kids nowadays, they get so wrapped up in the NIL and the big personalities and the big brands, which they're still going to be there, and that's still going to be the case for a lot of them. But at the end of the day, now more than ever, relationships matter and genuine connections matter, because you need to be able to trust a coach at these points, especially with some of the NIL conversations. We've seen this now where, kids are suing some of these schools because the NIL hasn't been held up, and, certain deals and conversations haven't been held up. So trust goes, I think, a much longer way now than what it did 3, 4, 5 years ago. And to have a guy like Darren DeVries, who every single recruit or transfer that I've talked to, that's been the first thing that they said, I think is the biggest, takeaway from him, as we approach, a month away, a couple weeks away from their first exhibition.
Make sure you are going to thehoosier.com to keep up with everything going on for IU athletics, football, basketball, recruiting, especially. Alec Lazley and crew always on top of it. Then we'll be out at tonight's game as well, covering the final non-conference game for the Indiana Hoosiers. And you can catch up on all the basketball recruiting news as well for just $1 to check it out. 50% off your first year. And you get a free subscription to The Athletic, and some other goodies are in there that you can see. Alec, I appreciate you, man.
I appreciate you, Jim. Have a good one.
Absolutely. We've got more coming up on Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle. We'll talk about the weekend picks. Got to get your picks in. Back with more right after these messages from Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today.
Huddle up, football fans. Tailgate season is here, and nobody gets you ready for game day like Academy Sports and Outdoors. Swing by your local Academy store or shop online at academy.com to find everything you need, from grills to jerseys and more. Be a watch party legend with gear from top brands like Nike and Under Armour, all at unbeatable prices every day. With 8 Academy stores across Indiana, including our Bloomington location, fun can't lose, and neither can you. Gear up today at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Zach Browning here to tell you about an offer you simply can't pass up. If you're looking for the best coverage of Indiana football and basketball, which includes recruiting, weekly chats, podcasts, as well as access to the best national team out there, then look no further than thehoosier.com. The best part, it's just $1 for the first week. Oh, and did I mention that you get a full year of access to The Athletic when you sign up? You can't beat the coverage, and you can't beat the deal. So head over to thehoosier.com today and sign up for just $1. It'll be the best decision you ever made.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday of game day for the Indiana Hoosiers, but not just Indiana. There's a few other teams that have games on the docket tonight. I think there are 5 games in all. Indiana hosting Indiana State. That's at 6:30, the earliest game on BTN. Colgate travels to Syracuse on the ACC network at 7. Colorado and Houston, which could be a very good game there. 7:30 on ESPN. Kansas State at Arizona out west, 9 o'clock on Fox. And New Mexico at hapless UCLA. That's at 10 o'clock on BTN. And UCLA, buddy, they are under the gun. Deshaun Foster, he could possibly get fired during the season. Their season is going that badly already. I don't know if UCLA would do that, but in just talking about the Ohio State thing, in which, hey, we want more money, then you've got a UCLA team that just, they're the worst in the Big Ten, and really should not be the case. You're in the second largest TV market in America, the second largest city in America, and that just should not be the case. That has been poor management by UCLA and bad coach selection. I'll tell you that right off the bat. So that does you no good. They're in the same situation that Purdue was a year ago. But Purdue, look what they've done with Barry Odom. They brought him in and definitely has changed their fortunes as they're looking up already with a 2-0 start. So UCLA looking to not start 0-3. They are a 14.5 point favorite, however, so maybe they get off the schneid. Tomorrow, Oregon's at Northwestern, Clemson's at Georgia Tech. Let's check out some top 25 games that people might want to I'll get the top 25 games pulled up. Just in the Big Ten tomorrow, Oregon goes to Northwestern, Wisconsin at Alabama. And not likely to have their starting quarterback. Michigan hosting Central Michigan. Nebraska hosting Houston Christian. Never heard of that team. Maryland hosting Towson. Penn State hosts Villanova. Purdue, they're hosting USC. That is going to be a tough game for the Boilermakers. Norfolk State at Rutgers. Youngstown State is at Michigan State. Ohio at Ohio State. Western Michigan at Illinois, Massachusetts at Iowa, and Minnesota goes to Cal for a late night West Coast game at 10:30 that you can all check out for certain. Indiana, of course, as I said, they host Indiana State tonight at 6:30 is the kickoff for that. Do you have your college pick'ems in? I've got mine in this week. I screwed up last week and missed out, so make sure you get those in, man. Cannot thank everybody enough. Todd Liry, Zach Austerman, and Alec Lazley from thehoosier.com. Most importantly, thanks to each and every one of you. Go out, have yourselves a great weekend. Enjoy the games tonight wherever you are. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.